They did it again. Tesla keeps beating analysts' expectations. They delivered 184,800 vehicles in the first quarter of 2021, blowing expectations out of the park. Meanwhile, their Model S and Model X production dropped to 0 vehicles, and that's because they're building factories, working on upgrading factories. So these numbers could have been even better if their Model S and Model X production was up. In Q4 of 2020, they actually delivered 18,920 Model S and Model X vehicles, produced about 16,000 of them. So considering that they just broke a record for the company, delivering more than they've ever have before in a single quarter, this proves that they are on a roll. They are on track to be the largest company in the world. Jim Cramer recently came out and says that he thinks that $1,000 price target for Tesla really isn't out of the ballpark. It's really a possibility that we could see them be $1,000, $1,200 per share company very, very soon, which would be about double what it is right now. So Q1 2021, analysts were expecting between 145,000 to really 188,000 on the high end. They delivered 184,000 vehicles, and all of the vehicles that they produced were Model 3 and Model Y crossover SUVs during the quarter. They didn't produce any more of its Model S sedans or Model X SUVs. They did deliver, though, 2,000 Model S and Model X vehicles from their inventory. They didn't make any more. So that was only 1% of their deliveries. And Tesla, in their statement for Q1, they explained how new equipment was installed. It was tested in Q1 of 2021. The company is now ready to ramp up production of the updated versions of the Model S and Model X. And this is a really good sign, considering they just had the best quarter of the entire history of the company, yet 2 of their models they didn't make any new vehicles of. That's a really good sign, because if they had those vehicles up and running for production, they could have easily been over 200,000 vehicles in the quarter. And on the way they're looking right now, it looks like they can hit 1 million vehicles this year. It's a possibility. It's not out of the question at all. And that would be really unheard of for them. They, like a lot of analysts, were not expecting that anytime soon. I think Tesla, they believe they can do it, but still, that would be a pretty big goal, considering last year they got to around 500,000 vehicles for the entire year. So 500,000 vehicles for the entire year 2020. Now they had 185,000 in the first quarter. That's a really great start, and no wonder why people love Tesla, people love Elon Musk. They keep delivering, keep beating analyst expectations, and there's really nothing that can stop them. It doesn't seem like anything can stop them. There's no company in the US anywhere close to them, no company really in the world in terms of electric vehicle production that's anywhere close to them. NIO, they did about 20,000 vehicles in Q1, but Tesla's they did 9 times more than that, 180,000 vehicles, and now with their Model S and Model X vehicles going to be ramping up production, they're easily, in my opinion, going to reach over 200,000 vehicles in the second quarter of 2021, and I think we could probably see closer to 220, maybe even 230,000 vehicles in Q2 of 2021. So that would be a pretty big deal. That would be a pretty big deal, doing much, much better than they did just a year ago. Growing still at a very fast rate, considering how large of a company they already are. But speaking of Tesla and Apple are actually having a partnership. They're working together because Apple's going to be using Tesla's Megapack batteries at its brand new solar farm facility. So Apple recently announced that they're building a battery-based solar energy storage facility in California. And the company said the facility will be able to hold 240 megawatt hours of energy, which essentially is enough to power more than 7,000 individual homes for an entire day, which is absolutely insane. And what the setup they're having at this Apple's new facility. They're going to have 85 TSLa Megapack battery energy storage systems. These energy storage systems were first announced in 2019, and this facility, while it could power thousands of homes, is going to be used to power Apple's headquarters, which is located in California. TSLa, they're continuing to grow their energy storage business, their battery business, their solar energy business. And while they're just at the very early stages of this is going to add on to revenue for TSLa. And this is going to be great for the company moving forward. Like, we're starting to see that this portion of their business is really starting to take off. The company, TSLa, they entered solar business in 2016 when they acquired Solar City for $2.6 billion. But the solar segment of their business only represents about 6% of the company's total revenue. But they're projecting that it's going to continue to grow over 30% year over year for the next couple of years. And this deal with Apple is a pretty big deal. 85 TSLa Megapack battery energy storage systems is a pretty big order, and we'll continue to see how this develops and how the solar energy portion of TSLa's business continues to grow over the next couple of years. And in my opinion, I think energy storage, solar energy, batteries, that's going to be a really, really large portion of their business, besides electric vehicles, besides robo-taxis, and besides everything else they're doing. I think energy storage, solar power, that's going to be a major, major portion of their business over the next couple of years. And I think we're going to see it eventually probably even take over their electric vehicle sales, because there's only so many vehicles you can sell. But when you start getting into software and batteries and energy storage, there's a much, much larger total addressable market, in my opinion, with that. Speaking of some cool news that came out, Google Maps. Google Maps has a wild new feature. It's absolutely insane. And it allows you essentially to be guided through indoor spaces like airports and malls and other like crowded places. So normally when you go on Google Maps, you go into the app, you look for where you want to go, and you'll just put in a location and it takes you there. You drive to the location, you could walk there. But now with the new feature on Google Maps, Google recently announced that new features are coming to Google Maps, and the coolest one allows you to navigate through indoor spaces like airports, malls, train stations, and other crowded areas using augmented reality. So essentially the way it works, look at this picture right here. It's called Live View AR feature. And essentially the way it works is if you want to find like an ATM, or you want to find a specific store, or you want to look for something in an airport or in a mall, you put that into the Google Maps, into the search bar, and next to the search button, there'll be a feature where you can click Live View if it's available in that area. And if you look at the screen and you have the camera, it'll show exactly where to go. It says, keep turning your phone. It's this way, this way, this way. Say go down the stairs, and it's over there. This picture looks really crazy. It's going to be so much easier for people if you're in a new place, a new airport, a new mall you've never been to. Much, much easier to navigate. And this is something that's going to really separate them from Apple. Apple's been trying to upgrade their maps for a while now. And with Google Maps having this new feature coming out, this is going to be pretty hard for Apple to catch up with, because this is next level. This is not anything like what Apple has. And this live view option, which will appear, is going to be first rolled out in cities like in malls, first off, in Chicago, Long Island, New York, Los Angeles, Newark, New Jersey, San Francisco, San Jose, California, and Seattle. Like I said, malls first in those places. And then in the coming months, they're going to start rolling it out in airports, malls, train stations, and other things in Tokyo, Zurich, Switzerland, and other locations will eventually support this feature as well. So if it's going to be available in your area, you'll simply go search like you normally would for something, and then when you tap directions, it'll say whether the feature called Live View is available. And if Live View is available, it can navigate you indoors. But this is really, really crazy. It's a next level feature that we have not seen in any other maps or navigation softwares yet. Apple's going to need to step up their game in this space because they've been slacking. They're going to start falling pretty far behind Google. They already are. A lot of people I know prefer Google Maps over Apple Maps. So we'll have to see what happens. But this new feature is really a game changer for Google, in my opinion. Next up, Xiaomi, their new logo. They spend tens of millions of dollars on a new logo that they just announced. And here it is. You can see, definitely very different. No, just joking. But their new logo is on the left and their old logo is on the right. The only difference is it's a little more curved. The edges are more curved, and that's it. They spent tens of millions of dollars on that. But they made a really big deal about this during their most recent presentation. And they spent more than 20 minutes describing the process of how they turned their old square design, their old logo, into their brand new logo. And I thought this was ridiculous. I watched this. I thought this was absolutely ridiculous how they spent so much money. They spent 20 minutes of this presentation also talking about how they came about this logo. And they start going into how this logo it's not just changing the shape from square edges to more rounded edges, but it's the internal spirit as well as the mentality of the brand. It is so much more than just square edges to round edges. That is what they said. And I mean, yeah, they're trying to be pretty optimistic, but really, to anyone looking at this, for them having to spend tens of millions of dollars on going through different logos, like, I could have just put this into Photoshop, rounded the edges a bit, and there you go. Like, this is not a big change at all. But they said how there was a lot of mathematics behind it. They showed all of the different variations that they could have had, and they looked at, N2 to N4.3, and they ended up picking N3. So really, the only difference in all of these is just a little more rounded or a little more square. But either way, they said the new logo is not a simple redesign of the shape, but an encapsulation of Xiaomi's inner spirit. And the design is a reflection of the concept alive. So if you're feeling dead inside, they said considering millions of dollars were spent on this logo, don't feel that way, because this has to do with the brand identity. I don't personally see it. I don't see how a more rounded logo has to be such a dramatic change to the brand and the brand identity and the spirit of the company, but that's how they see it. So I guess that's what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Speaking of Xiaomi, though, they also unveiled their first ever foldable phone, the Mi Mix Fold. And this phone has 2 displays, 4 cameras, and lots of interesting features. And this is their first foldable phone. Apple isn't yet in the foldable phone space, but Xiaomi now is with the Mi Mix Fold. And the Mi Mix Fold has 2 displays, a large 8.01-inch foldable AMOLED display when open, or a 6.5-inch external display when the phone is folded. The hinge, this is always a big deal on foldable phones. Like, how many times can you open and close the phone? Is it going to wear out? Is it going to break? They say that the Mi Mix Fold has been tested over 1 million times. And they say that, it's been tested for opening and closing 1 million times. So that shouldn't be an issue, and it shouldn't affect anything on the screen. We shouldn't see any folds or anything there. But as for the camera, this is where some big features are. The phone features Xiaomi's new Surge C1 image signal processor, which the company explains is optimized for professional photography, uses a liquid lens technology, and this allows the camera to focus at a minimum distance of 3 centimeters, then switch to 3x optical zoom and up to 30x telephoto. So this is a pretty big deal, but in reality, the biggest change to this is that they are entering the foldable phone space. The camera, they're always upgrading cameras, no matter whether it's Apple, Samsung, Xiaomi. It doesn't matter. All the companies are always upgrading the camera. That's one of the most common upgrades on newer phones these days. So big change with this phone in particular is really just the what is going on with having a foldable phone versus their other models. So pretty interesting here that they are entering this space. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Apple enter the foldable phone space soon as well. A lot of Samsung foldable phones out there. So this is a pretty big deal for Xiaomi. Switching gears a bit, Myanmar, their government shut down internet indefinitely in response to protests going on in the country. And the military leadership has ordered a wireless broadband shutdown without a deadline. This could go on for months. We don't know as of right now. And Myanmar's acting military leadership, they shut down broadband internet service in response to the ongoing protests just the other day. And this move comes just a couple of months after the government, after a military portion of the military staged a coup to depose the country's democratically elected leader. The shutdown applies to wireless broadband service, and there already is a separate order in place which does ban mobile internet at night. That's going to stay into effect. So the ban on mobile internet at night will stay into effect, but now this is going to be applying to wireless broadband service. The orders were given to the state telecoms, though no official reason has been given. Really just going to be probably to silence a lot of these protests, not let any of the information get out. Without access to broadband or mobile internet at night, it makes it very hard to get information out to people or out of the country. It gets to be very difficult. If you can't get on the internet, it's hard to share what is going on. NetBlocks, they're an advocacy group that tracks internet disruptions and shutdowns aimed at squashing dissent, has confirmed the Myanmar shutdown timeline. They say mobile data has been shut down for 17 days, roaming so far for hours, public Wi-Fi has been shut down, online platforms have been banned since February. So there's a lot of restrictions going on right now. There's no end in sight, unfortunately, so it's not great, but that is what's going on right now with all of these protests against the military government, and how they've been responding by really restricting internet access, restricting public access to broadband service. And I'll keep you guys updated on what's going on here, but things, are still, there's no end in sight to this right now. And it really just appears that this is designed to interfere with protesters organizing and preventing Myanmar citizens, journalists, and human rights activists from more easily broadcasting what's happening, what's going on there with the rest of the world. So I'll keep you guys updated on what's happening. But speaking of military, the U.S. Army, they are deploying Microsoft HoloLens-based headsets in a $21.88 billion deal. These are some augmented reality technology from Microsoft, and the hardware is finally moving into the production phase, and the deal between Microsoft and the U.S. Army is actually much, much bigger than people were originally expecting. The new contract is significantly larger than in 2018. There was a deal that was going to be providing 120,000 headsets to the government, but this contract could be as large as $21.88 billion. It's going to be like a 10-year long agreement between Microsoft and the U.S. Army. And what these are augmented reality headsets based on the HoloLens 2, and they're finally entering production. And this prototype has been in the work for the last couple of years. So essentially, what this is going to do is it's very, very interesting. I was reading up on it, and the integral visual augmentation system, it's going to deliver a platform that will keep soldiers safer and make them more effective. And the way it does this is, obviously anything with the military, the goals are to make it more effective, safer, make it easier for people to use. But what these are going to do is that they say it's going to enhance situational awareness, enabling information sharing and decision making in a variety of scenarios. And some of the specific features that these are going to have is that the Army explains how it's going to aggregate multiple technologies into one single architecture, one device, and allow a soldier to fight, rehearse, and train using a single platform. Some of the features on it are going to include high-resolution night, thermal, and solar-borne sensors, which the Army will say will improve, awareness, engagement, decision-making, things like that. So night, thermal, and solar-borne sensors. The system also will leverage augmented reality, which is, getting very, very important whether you're in the medical field, whether now you're in the Army. And they say this augmented reality and machine learning technology is going to allow for better training environment for close combat. And it's also going to make it easier for people in the Army to communicate. So there's a lot of benefits to this for training and for the training purposes and actual combat scenarios. And this is pretty exciting. This is a really big deal for Microsoft having this $21.88 billion contract over the span of 10 years. It's a really big deal. And in terms of augmented reality, it's one of the larger contracts I've seen to date with any sort of augmented reality technology with any company, whether we're talking about a deal with the government, a deal with an individual corporation. This is probably the largest one I have seen, and this is a really big deal. So we'll continue to see what develops here, but there's a lot of cool features to it, and some of them are like with the actual glasses. Others allow the team members to communicate through their own radio. Benefits to having simulations with the augmented reality and things like that. So we'll wait and see what happens here. But that is a really big deal for Microsoft and a big deal for the U.S. Army. It's really a win-win for both, but this could position Microsoft as a leader in the augmented reality and, augmented reality glasses space. So we'll see how this continues to play out. Next up is the photos from NASA's Perseverance Mars rover let you get lost in another world. So this article from CNET, they talk about thousands of images that are uploaded consistently onto NASA's website. It's to a public database of what the Perseverance Mars rover is actually doing. So right now, the Mars 2020 Perseverance rover has been sending back over 16,000 images total. Now it's close to 17,000 images. And when this landed, it's essentially like the size of a sedan. It's going around the surface of Mars and has a total of 23 cameras. Some of them which were only used for, when it landed, for like entry and descent, but there's 23 cameras total that are now designed to just take pictures, collect data for scientists, and these cameras are taking some pretty interesting pictures. There's a popular 4K panorama that's been taken, and if you go to the site on NASA, it's mars.nasa.gov. Right now they have thousands of pictures, and a lot of these, they're very surprising. A lot of them look, if you start really looking at the pictures, it's interesting because the surface of Mars really doesn't look very different from like a desert or somewhere on Earth. Like if you look at these and someone didn't tell you that they were on a completely new planet, well, you could probably think they're in a desert, whether that's in the US, over, it could be in the Middle East. But some of these pictures don't look too out of this world, and that's pretty surprising. So they're going to be collecting data for the next, for years and years to come with the 23 cameras on this rover. But I thought, it's really cool how they have a lot of color pictures. It's not just black and white, and they're actually pretty high quality. So if you're just looking at these first couple of ones, these just look like they're on, you could be on a desert somewhere, but they'll continue to collect data. And if you want to see more of these pictures, they're uploading them consistently onto NASA's website. and they're pretty cool to check out, as over time the database is going to continue to grow, and it's just a public database where anyone can access these pictures from the about 23 cameras on this Mars rover. Switching gears a bit, YouTube stars the Stokes Twins, they avoided jail time after pleading guilty over fake robbery pranks. So essentially what happened is a couple years back, they filmed a prank of a fake robbery, and the police got involved. We see these pranks all the time on YouTube, and they try to make them look realistic, and a lot of times they film them in just public areas. And the problem with this is that Alan and Alex Stokes, they filmed a prank back in 2019 in the fall, and they filmed a prank where they were wearing, black ski masks, and a lot of people got scared in the area. The police were called, and according to the judge, according to what was happening, is they say these videos are mimicking criminal behavior. They were wearing, ski masks, black masks, and the problem with this is that they pretended like it was an active bank robbery, and the police that were called, they don't know the difference. They get these people could have gotten injured, they could have been killed, and really bad things could have happened because of this prank. And so that's the reason why, if the worst case scenario for them was that they were going to have to face up to 5 years in prison if convicted on all accounts. But they pleaded guilty, so their sentence now, both of them received 160 hours of community service and 1 year of probation, in addition to both having to pay restitution. So during the prank, they went in an Uber, and then the police later, went up to the person in the Uber at gunpoint because they thought he was involved. So it was a whole big deal, but now it's been resolved, and they're both going to have to serve sentenced to 160 hours of community service, 1 year probation, and have to pay restitution. Next up, switching gears to stocks. The Stonks guy is now in Fortnite. Diamond hands, ready, he's here, and so now the Stonks guy, the bald-looking guy, is now officially a new skin on Fortnite. Diamond Hands was introduced in Chapter 2, Season 6, in Fortnite, and now it's available for 1,200 V-Bucks. And according to Fortnite's recent post on Twitter, now available to get this new skin on Fortnite for 1,200 V-Bucks. Fortnite, they already have a bunch of different popular skins for pop culture, fruit, and more. But this one, with everything going on with GameStop and AMC, pretty exciting to see. They're adding more pop culture, skins to Fortnite. So we'll see what happens there. Other things with stocks, NIO just announced their first quarter and March deliveries for 2021. They delivered better than expected. They delivered 20,060 vehicles in the first 3 months on the first quarter of 2021. This is pretty surprising because they had to shut down their factory for 5 whole days due to chip shortages in some of the semiconductor facilities in Japan and some issues that went on there. So they had originally cut back their expectations to only delivering 19,000 vehicles, but even with the 5-day shutdown, they still managed to beat expectations, had their best quarter ever, best month ever, and delivered 20,060 vehicles in the first quarter. This is made up of their ES8, ES6, and E6 models. And in March of 2021, they delivered 7,257 models. So this consisted of 1,529 ES8s, which is their 6-seater and 7-seater flagship SUV, 3,152 EC6s, and 2,576 EC6s. So that was pretty big news for NIO. I love the company. The thing that I like about them the most is their battery as a service subscription model. I think that's what really sets them apart from their competitors and other companies out there. Now on to MP Materials. So MP Materials is a stock that has been doing extremely well this year and a stock I'm invested in. But there's been some surprising news lately because their chairman and CEO, James Litinsky, sold $155 million of his position in the company. And that's not really what you want to see as an investor. You don't like to see insiders, especially the CEO, selling that much money of the stock. It makes you think, is something going on? Is something bad happening? Why is he selling so much money? He sold over 4.6 million shares of stock. And he was a 10% owner of the company, so he still has, about $400 million of stock. But still, it makes you think, why now when electric vehicles, it seems like it's going to be a time when electric vehicles and the need for the rare earth materials that MP Materials mines is going to be needed more than ever. So it makes you think, why is he doing it now? My opinion, I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think the main reason he did this was just because, to use the money to invest in other things. He still has $400 million over that invested in the company. In stocks, he's probably getting, stock compensation packages. So really, he still owns a lot of it and probably wants to just diversify his portfolio. Nothing, in my opinion, to really be worried about. Down the road, if he continues to sell, then we can start thinking, maybe there's something to be worried about. But at this point, I don't think anything too important, too surprising, anything to be really worried about here. And another big deal with stocks is the NFL agreed to data rights deal with Genius Sports, which is a company that is going public via a SPAC merger. Their stock ticker symbol is DMYD. After hours, they were up 24% after this announcement with the NFL was released. And I think they have a lot of potential to go much, much higher because the NFL announced that Genius Sports is going to be the official data provider for NFL games. It says that they're going to distribute real-time play-by-play stats, and they're also going to provide sports betting data feeds to media companies and sports betting firms domestically and internationally. This is a really big deal because Genius Sports isn't that large of a company. They're a London-based company, and they're not huge. So having this sort of deal that's going to be valued at $1 billion over the lifetime of the contract, that's a huge thing for Genius Sports. And that guarantees them revenue over the next couple of years, 3 to 5 years. And that's a really big deal for a company that's very small and still growing. And something like this can open the doors for a lot more possibilities, for a lot more partnerships over the coming years. And I think it's something that we're going to want to keep an eye out on. It's something that you may want to get in with, Genius Sports. They are a data company. Data is very, very important for any company. But now Genius will represent the NFL, be their official, data provider for NFL games. They're going to be working with sports betting, advertising inventory across all of the NFL platforms for NFL games. It's going to be something that's really big, going to provide a lot of revenue for the company. And now with this guaranteed contract, they could spend more money on, building their platform out, marketing, getting more customers. I think it's going to be something you're definitely going to want to keep an eye out on moving forward. But anyways, that's really all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget, you can get 4 free stocks when you download the Webull investing app using the link down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.